In the world of modern celebrity, some stars burn bright and fade fast, but others have a light so unique that they carve out a permanent place in our hearts. They're more than just singers. They're phenomena. And then there are the rare few who, after achieving the impossible, face a crisis that threatens to silence them forever, only to fight their way back. This is a story about a voice that stunned the world, a voice that became a global sensation overnight. This is the story of Susan Boyle, a woman who sold well over 20 million albums, with a debut that became one of the best-selling of the 21st century. A woman who instantly went from a quiet life in a small Scottish village to international superstardom. But this isn't just a story about fame. It's about what happens when the music stops. It's about a devastating health scare that threatened to end her career, a private, grueling battle fought far away from the cheering crowds. Then, in May 2025, she made an announcement that shocked everyone. A comeback. A return to the recording studio for the first time in 6 long, arduous years. This is the story of that comeback, the journey nobody saw coming. Her miraculous recovery from a stroke that nearly took it all, and her emotional return to the one thing she thought she had lost forever. How did she fight her way back? What does her voice sound like now? And where is Susan Boyle in 2025? 2. Understand the triumph of her return, we have to go back to the moment it all began. The date was April 11, 2009. The show was Britain's Got Talent. The judges, Simon Cowell, Amanda Holden, and Piers Morgan, thought they'd seen it all. They were wrong. Out walked a 47-year-old woman from the small village of Blackburn, West Lothian. She was unemployed, had never been kissed, and dreamed of being as successful as Elaine Paige. The audience and judges were skeptical, to say the least. There were smirks, eye rolls, and a heavy dose of condescension. Her name was Susan Boyle. What happened next is burned into television history. As the first notes of I Dreamed a Dream from Les Miserables played, a total transformation occurred. The unassuming woman opened her mouth and outpoured a voice so pure and powerful it sent a shockwave through the auditorium and within hours around the world. The smirks vanished, replaced by stunned silence, tears, and a roaring standing ovation. Amanda Holden later called it the biggest wake-up call ever. That one audition was a cultural firestorm. The YouTube video went viral, racking up millions of views in just a few days. It was a story that challenged our snap judgments based on age and appearance. Susan Boyle became the ultimate underdog, proof that extraordinary talent can hide in the most ordinary of places. Her life until then had been profoundly simple. The youngest of 9, she was raised in a council house in Blackburn and cared for her aging mother until her death in 2007. Her world was the local church choir and her small community. She'd entered singing competitions, always encouraged by her mother, but never got her break. In fact, her BGT audition was the first time she'd sung in public since her mother passed away, a tribute to the woman who always believed in her. The aftermath was a whirlwind. By the end of 2009, her debut album, I Dreamed a Dream, was released. It became the UK's best-selling debut album of all time and sold over 10 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling album of the year. She had done it. She was as successful as Elaine Paige. Her second album, The Gift, made her the first female artist in UK history to have 2 different albums top both the UK and US charts in the same year. She was a certified superstar, performing for royalty and the Pope. The dream had been realized, but the dizzying heights of fame cast long shadows, and the weight of this new reality would prove to be a heavier burden than anyone imagined. The explosion of global fame is tough for anyone, but for Susan Boyle, it was uniquely difficult. Her life had been defined by quiet routine, and suddenly she was thrown into a world of relentless media attention. This jarring transition was made even harder by underlying complexities few understood. In 2013, Susan revealed she had been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome. For her whole life, she'd been told she had a learning disability from birth complications. This new diagnosis was a revelation. Her brain was just wired differently. It explained her lifelong struggles with social interaction and her sensitivity to overwhelming situations. Suddenly, the moments of public distress, which some in the press had cruelly portrayed as meltdowns, were cast in a new, more compassionate light. Fame, with its constant demands, is a tricky landscape for anyone with Asperger's. For Susan, it was a minefield. The pressure was enormous and sometimes overwhelming her. There were reports of public outbursts, all documented by a press that often lacked understanding. Alongside this, Susan was managing other health issues. She was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in 2013, a condition that required careful management and prompted a publicly scrutinized weight loss. Despite it all, she remained remarkably grounded. In a move that baffled many, Susan never left her roots. Despite a fortune estimated at over $22 million, she didn't buy a mansion. Instead, she bought the semi-detached council house she grew up in and the one next door, combining them into her own personalized sanctuary. When asked why, her answer was simple. It's to do with the memories of your house and your upbringing. It's best to be grounded and with your roots. Her home was her anchor, a connection to the woman she was before the world knew her name. For nearly a decade, she navigated this reality, releasing 7 studio albums and a compilation album titled 10 to Celebrate a Decade in Music. But after that, the public appearances dwindled. The world entered a pandemic, and for someone with underlying health conditions, caution was key. A quiet period began. What fans didn't know was that Susan was about to face the single greatest fight of her life. In April 2022, out of the public eye, the unthinkable happened. Susan Boyle had a stroke. For a singer, a stroke isn't just a medical emergency. It's an existential threat. It's the potential end of everything. The event was initially described as a minor stroke, but Susan later referred to it as a major stroke, highlighting just how severe her experience was. It left her with significant muscle weakness on one side of her body. More terrifyingly, it stole her ability to speak clearly, and with it, her ability to sing. Just imagine that. For Susan, her voice was her essence. It was the gift that lifted her from obscurity and changed her life. Now it was impaired, maybe for good. In the aftermath, doctors delivered the devastating news that she might never record music again. The journey from the BGT stage was a fairy tale. This was a nightmare. A profound silence followed. For nearly 2 years, she vanished from public life as she waged a private war. A stroke attacks the brain, the body's command center. For a vocalist, the coordination required to produce sound is incredibly complex. When a stroke damages those neural pathways, the results can be catastrophic. Words can become slurred, and the ability to control pitch, tone, and volume can be lost. The initial reality for Susan was grim. The voice that filled concert halls now struggled to form sentences. This period of silence was the lowest point of her journey. She was known as the woman who dreamed a dream. Now it seemed that dream was turning to dust. But within that silence, the same determination that got her on that stage in 2009 began to stir. She had fought her way out of obscurity once. Now she had to fight her way back to herself. The road back from a stroke is slow, methodical, and often frustrating. For Susan Boyle, it was a battle fought with quiet, immense strength. Her comeback wasn't a single moment of inspiration, but the result of the daily, grinding work of rehabilitation. The first step was intensive vocal coaching and speech therapy. This wasn't about polishing her technique, it was about starting from scratch. Imagine the humility it takes for a world-renowned vocalist who sold millions of albums to sit with a therapist, practicing basic sounds to regain the clarity the stroke had stolen. She later said, "It's been hard. I'm not going to pretend otherwise." At the same time, she undertook grueling physical rehabilitation to rebuild strength and coordination on the side of her body weakened by the stroke. The psychological toll was immense. For a full year, she worked with one goal: to sing on stage again. The fear that her voice would never return to its former glory must have been a constant companion, but she wasn't alone. Her manager, Geraldine, was her absolute rock through everything, helping her get back to where she belonged. Her Catholic faith, a cornerstone of her life, also provided immense strength. Slowly, glimmers of hope appeared. Her speech began to clear. In her vocal exercises, the notes started to come back, faint at first, but growing stronger. She was rediscovering her instrument. This process revealed the true strength of the woman behind the voice. She wasn't fighting for fame or sales, she was fighting for her soul. As she later quipped with her classic humor, "You can't keep an old woman down." After a year of this silent, intensive work, it was time for a terrifying test. A moment to step out of the quiet therapy room and back into the spotlight that started it all. In June 2023, over a year after her stroke, Susan Boyle made a surprise return to the Britain's Got Talent stage. It wasn't just a guest appearance, it was a profound, personal gamble. For the first time since her health crisis, she would sing live for millions. Appearing in the show's finale, she joined the West End cast of Les Miserables to sing the song that started it all, "I Dreamed a Dream." The lyrics, once about a dream of a life to come, now carried the weight of a life nearly lost. As she began to sing, the audience held its breath. The voice that emerged was unmistakably Susan's, rich, emotional, and filled with a new layer of resilience. The performance was flawless. The standing ovation was immediate. After the song, she revealed the secret she had kept for over a year. "It's extra special for me, actually," she began, "because last April I suffered a minor stroke." The audience gasped. Her voice trembling slightly, she added, "I fought like crazy to be back on stage, and I have done it." The revelation sent a wave of emotion through the room. A visibly moved Simon Cowell told her, "Susan, we owe you so much. I knew you weren't well, but if anyone was going to come back, you were going to come back. You are amazing." This performance was the critical turning point. It was the moment she proved to the world, and more importantly, to herself, that a comeback was happening. She had faced the silence and found her voice again, setting the stage for the most surprising chapter yet. While the fight for her voice was the central drama, Susan Boyle's life in 2025 is about more than just a comeback. It's about a woman who has found a renewed sense of self. At 64 years old, she remains a beloved resident of Blackburn, West Lothian, living in the same expanded council house that holds her life's memories. This decision to stay put speaks volumes about her character. She's an active volunteer at her local church, a life of quiet service and connection to the community that knew her long before the world did. In 2025, fans also noticed a visible transformation. She debuted a new look on social media, with bright, blonde hair and a radiant appearance. Her posts show her enjoying simple pleasures, like a barbecue with friends, painting a picture of contentment that stands in stark contrast to the turbulent early years of her fame. Her personal life has always been a topic of interest. Susan has never married, and though she briefly dated an American doctor in 2014, she has often said any future companionship would likely be platonic. Her biggest regret, she has said, is not having children of her own, and she once considered fostering. This blend of vulnerability and privacy defines her. The Susan Boyle of 2025 is not just a survivor. She's a woman who has found a deep happiness on her own terms, finding joy in her faith, friendships, and community. This newfound peace became the foundation for her professional return. As Susan continues her incredible journey, you can follow her updates on her official Instagram and Facebook channels. She has become more active online, sharing personal moments and professional news directly with her fans. But the story doesn't end there. The ultimate culmination of her fight was a return to the one place she was told she might never see again. On April 1st, 2025, her 64th birthday, Susan Boyle broke a nearly 2-year social media silence with a video and a powerful message. In a glamorous pink suit, she declared, "I'm back. I'm definitely back." She announced she was working on wonderful new projects and was more determined and excited than ever. The news sent a shockwave of support across the internet. But the real climax came a month later, in May 2025. In an emotional Instagram post, Susan shared a photo of herself in a recording studio. The caption revealed the moment's profound significance. "Today was wonderful, emotional, and everything in between," she wrote. "I made my return to the recording studio for the first time in 6 years, something I was told I might never achieve. Again. But here we are, in my happy place, 6 years, an eternity in music." For Susan, it represented the chasm between life before her stroke and the life she fought so hard to reclaim. Stepping up to that microphone was the ultimate act of defiance. It was definitive proof that her voice, tested by fire, had endured. There is talk of new projects and even a potential new tour. As she put it, her feet won't touch the ground. The 2025 comeback is the culmination of everything she has endured: the sudden fame, the public scrutiny, and the devastating stroke. The new music she is creating will inevitably carry the weight of her experience, the sound of a woman who stared into the abyss and emerged, singing. This isn't a celebrity relaunching a brand. This is an artist reclaiming her voice, her purpose, and her dream against all odds. The story of Susan Boyle has always been full of surprises. From the unassuming woman on the Britain's Got Talent stage to a global superstar, her journey has consistently defied expectations. But her 2025 comeback is her most inspiring chapter yet. It's a story of resilience, determination, and the unbreakable spirit of a woman who refused to be silenced. She faced a crisis that threatened to take the very thing that made her special. Through a year of silent, grueling work, she fought her way back from a major stroke, rebuilding her voice and her strength. Her return to the stage in 2023 was a glimmer of hope. Her return to the recording studio in 2025 was a declaration of triumph. Today, Susan Boyle is not the same woman who captured our hearts in 2009. She is stronger, more resilient, and filled with a quiet confidence born from overcoming unimaginable adversity. She remains rooted in her Scottish hometown, finding joy in faith, friendship, and personal happiness while embarking on an exciting new phase of her career. Her story began with a dream. Now it stands as a testament to the fight to keep that dream alive. Susan Boyle reminds us that it's never too late for a second chance, that our greatest strength is forged in our deepest struggles, and that a truly remarkable voice can never be silenced. The dream continues, not just lived, but earned.